Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Vivajakacharya Vasto Tatashishi Nitya Lila Pravista Om His Divine Grace Shrilabai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Radharaja Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki Jai Kali Yuga Dharma Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tojayam Udirayet Nastapareshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki This should be made louder, please. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. Text number 20. Yasya Angri Padmam Paricharya Vishva Vibhavanaya Ata Guna Abhipate Aja Ajatishtat Kalu Paramestyam Padam Jita Atma Svasana Abhivandyam Yas Yangri Padmam Paricharya Vishva Vimanayata Gunabhipate Ajodayashtat Kaluparamistyam Padam Jitatma Svanasabhivandyam Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishva Vibhavanat Vibhavanatya Gunabhipate Ajodyadishtat Kaluparamistyam Padam Chitatma Svanasna Padam Chitatma Svanasna Bivandyam Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishva Vibhavanyata Gunabhipate Ajodyadastat Kaluparamistyam Padam Chitatma Svanasabhivandyam Anyone else? Yasya, whose, Angri, leg, Padmam, lotus feet, Paricharya, worshipping, Vishva, universe, Vibhavanaya, for creating, Ata, received, Guna abhipate, for acquiring the required qualifications. Aja, the unborn, Lord Brahma. Adyatishtat, become situated. Kalo, undoubtedly. Paramestyam, the supreme position within the universe. Padam, position. Jita Atma, one who has conquered his mind. Svasana, by controlling the life air. Abhivandyam, worshipable. Translation. Suniti continued. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshiping His lotus feet, your great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air, prana. Purport. Suniti cited the example of Lord Brahma, who was Dhruva Maharaj's great-grandfather. Although Lord Brahma is also a living being, by his penance and austerity, he acquired the exalted position of creator of this universe by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. To become successful in any attempt, one not only has to undergo severe penances and austerities, but also must be dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This indication had been given to Dhruva Maharaj by his stepmother, who was now confirmed by his own mother, Suniti. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Undlitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidham Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagvajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyas cha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Divyad Brindaranya Kalpa Drumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Singhasanastho Śrīmad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Yastalabi Sevyamano Smarami Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarane Yasyangri Padmam Paricharya Vishva Vibhavanatya Gunabhipate Ajo Yatishtat Kalu Paramistyam Padam Jitatma Sva Sanabhivandyam. Sumniti continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshiping his lotus feet, your great-grandfather, Lord Brahma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn as the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air, prana. It will be made abundantly clear later, especially, how Dhruva Maharaj's mother is his Vartma Pradaksha Guru. Vartma Pradaksha Guru is one who shows the way. Ultimately, Dhruva Maharaj, by, what is it said? That by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. And by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj's incredible sincerity, which led him to perform his incredible austerity, attracted the attention of Narada Muni. Narada Muni in particularly and especially is, Srila Prabhupada says in one place, always on the lookout or always looking to find sincere candidates. He's always trying to affect the increase of devotional service to facilitate the ultimate perfection of deserving and worthy candidates for the Lord's mercy all over the universe. One time, I believe it was in Boston, in 1968, Hansarupa Prabhu is reading in his class this section of Satsuru Maharaj's additional pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, the unofficial volume 7 of the Prabhupada Lilamrita, that a particular engagement was not very well attended, and the devotees were apologizing to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Did you not see how Narada Muni, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, they were there?" And Srila Prabhupada was encouraged by his own spiritual master. We can preach to the four walls. Effectively, Prabhupada was doing that in his windowless chamber lent to him by the impersonalist Mayavad yogi, Dr. Mishra, on the 5th floor of 100 West 72nd Street, which was a room being used for Hatha Yoga, and there was a tiny office affixed to that, which became Srila Prabhupada's residence. And even though hardly anyone attended Srila Prabhupada's classes at the time, some of the most important foundational writings and recordings of Srila Prabhupada's Shravanam Kirtanam took place there, which we are all the recipients today, and for as many generations of devotees, it's predicted for 10,000 years this movement will become prominent on this planet. Prabhupada was writing the Bhagavad Gita, the second canto of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, his solitary bhajans. Everyone knows Prabhupada kirtans and bhajans, there's so many. Prayers to Queen Kunti, the fourth chapter of the second canto, Shukadeva Goswami's prayers for invocation of Śrimad Bhāgavatam, and others. I never felt alone, but I always felt the presence of my spiritual master, always in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Mother Suniti, she's encouraging Dhruva Maharaj to seek out the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these are very, very wonderful and beautiful verses of encouragement, ultimately, for all devotees. Prabhupada says in one place, when Arjuna came back to report to Maharaj Yudhishthira the disappearance of Lord Krishna, there's an entire chapter, the disappearance of Lord Krishna, in the latter part of the first canto. He says, now I am drawn to the instructions imparted to me in the great intimacy. What is going on that requires so much activity? Of friendship, which can relieve the burning heart in all times, places, and circumstances. And Prabhupada writes in the purport there that not only did Krishna speak the Bhagavad Gita for Arjuna's benefit, but for all of us. And one can turn to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, to Krishna's instructions, to give one solace, which might embarrass one in some critical hour. Thank you. Your grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, executed great sacrifices with distribution of charity, and thereby with unflinching faith and devotion, he worshipped and satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By acting in that way, he achieved the greatest success in material happiness and afterwards achieved liberation, which is impossible to obtain by worshiping the demigods. My dear Dhruva, as far as I am concerned, I do not find anyone who can mitigate your distress but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes are like lotus petals. Suniti, the mother of Dhruva, was a far-seeing woman, and therefore she advised her son to worship the Supreme Lord and no one else. If you worship the demigods, even the most exalted demigods, such as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, that complete pacification and solace of the heart will not be obtained. Because that can only be obtained by fully renovating your eternal loving relationship with Krishna and not otherwise. When a person is fatigued, if he sees a lotus flower, all his fatigue can be immediately reduced to nil. Similarly, when an aggrieved person sees the lotus face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately all his grief is reduced. The instruction of Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was actually meant for fulfilling his desired objective. Therefore, after deliberate consideration and with intelligence and fixed determination, he left his father's house. Both the mother and the son were lamenting. Dhruva Maharaj is having been insulted by his stepmother and his father's not having taken any step on this issue. But mere lamentation is useless. One should find out the means to mitigate one's lamentation. Thus both mother and son decided to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord because that is the only solution to all material problems. It is indicated in this connection that Dhruva Maharaj left his father's capital city to go to a secluded place to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj also that if one is seeking peace of mind, he should free himself from all contamination of family life and take shelter of the Supreme Godhead by going to the forest. To the Gaudiya Vaishnava, this forest is the forest of Brinda or Vrindavan. If one takes shelter of Vrindavan under Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, certainly all the problems of his life are solved very easily. So, the determination and the resolve to perform to the best of our possible ability in any circumstance pure devotional service, just that attempt is our complete success. And Krishna guarantees that for a devotee who lives their life in that way, that his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. Suniti in today's verse is glorifying the process of taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet and gives the supreme example in the universe, Lord Brahma. He acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. There are we can look around this world, and there are many high posts and positions, very, very important, or even in an ordinary sense, one wants to get a very important position in the company or the firm with a big paying job, a high political post. So many qualifications are required. So what to speak of the chief demigod of this entire universe, all planetary systems, all different species of life, their creation, so many things. We can't even imagine how much Lord Brahma is responsible for. And with the most fantastic lifespan, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Maintaining that powerful cognizance of all his duties and responsibilities for such an incredible period of time. So Suniti is saying how he acquired all those qualifications simply by taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is an encouragement for each and every one of us that that which we wouldn't think would be possible can become very much possible, and so much more than we can even dream of or understand is possible. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are meant to situate ourselves in this exalted, sublime status of life, of moment to moment, day after day, week, month, year after year, give our entire life to serving the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pure devotees, by distributing and facilitating this most sublime reality of truth and glory and ultimate comfort and solace for every living entity on this planet. We are serving the greatest personality, and the reward, or that which is part and parcel of that service, is the greatest of all things. And it is not a mystery or a unproven experiment, but it is a fact that this is meant for every living entity. The actual identity of every living entity is that they are an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we're coming to the appearance of Lord Nrsingadev, and the very last pushing of Hiranyakashipu's tolerance, after Hiranyakashipu tried to have his henchmen torture and try to kill Prahlad Maharaj in so many different ways, and now he himself is going to try. He is beside himself with wonder and astonishment. Only Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were exempt from his rule. That means Indra, Bhrigu Muni, all the most exalted personalities in the universe had to bow down in fear and execute the order of Hiranyakashipu. My dear son Prahlad, my son, not dear, didn't say dear. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the three worlds tremble along with their chief rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? And Prahlad Maharaj will now answer, but we all know, because he is fully taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. One who has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in perfect eternal servitude is not required to serve any mundane personality, no matter how great they are. The relationship between a pure devotee and the Lord is extremely relishable. A devotee never claims to be very powerful himself. Instead, he fully surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna, being confident that in all dangerous conditions, Krishna will protect his devotees. Bhagavad Gita 9:31. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati. O son of Kunti, declare it meekly, declare it boldly, that my devotee never perishes. When the false Pondraka, imitating Lord Vishnu, sent the messenger to Krishna at Dwarka and said that you have to give up the symbols of Vasudeva and you have to surrender unto me. And Krishna's in his throne room, assembly room, and it's described that Krishna and all of his associates for a considerable period of time laughed with great satisfaction. Should make a play. That would be a good drama. And then Krishna, now I have a message that you can bring back to your master. Say that I refuse to follow his instructions, because he is a fool and a rascal, and anyone who associates and follows him constitutes a society of cheaters and cheated. When Prahlad Maharaj was instructing his demoniac schoolmates, he smiled and laughed at the uselessness of the instructions of the teachers, Sunda and Amarka, diplomacy and how to divide and conquer, how to consider friends and enemies and try to, twist and twisting things around and people around to get your advantage. He didn't like those instructions, and he refused to follow them. Indeed, that was the beginning of the argument. What is the best thing, my dear 5-year-old son, that you learned at school? Well, I learned how to put blocks together, and we made sandcastles, and we said, what I have learned is that one who has accepted a materialistic life, which is full of suffering, should give up such a condemned position and simply go to the forest and worship where only Krishna consciousness is predominant. And that's the ultimate instruction. The talk show host, Uncle Jay, all-night talk show host, Hansarupa Prabhu, was reading, "Why did you take sannyas?" In this country, we'd call it abandonment. He said, no, it is not like that. It is a mature stage of life. Say, why did you take sannyas? Like routine work. Because they don't take sannyas, they suffer. Hiranyakashipu was perplexed about how his 5-year-old boy could become so fearless that he did not care for the order of his very great and powerful father. A devotee cannot execute the order of anyone except the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the position of a devotee. Hiranyakashipu could understand that this boy must have been very powerful, since the boy did not heed his orders. And indeed, after all the treacheries of his henchmen failed, Hiranyakashipu, perhaps for the first time in his life, became very afraid. He was out of sorts. And then his henchmen and Sunda Marcus said, look, he's only a 5-year-old boy. Let's re-indoctrinate him. Let's just keep it up. And after, 5 years old, he's going to forget it and everything's going to be all right. How have you overcome my order? By whose strength have you done this? My dear king, the source of my strength, of which you were asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. This is essential and very important, and ultimately so sublime for every Sankirtan devotee, book distributor, anyone ministering, especially to the general public, to have this samadarshi, this vision. Then the question, or the so-called risk or threat of being bewildered by the external manifestations of body, mind, political thought, emotional disposition, etc., will be very, very minimal in comparison to the real truth of what's happening. Whether moving or non-moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Controller of the time factor, power of the senses, power of the mind, of the body, the vital force of the senses. His influence is unlimited. He is the best of all living entities, the controller of the 3 modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates this cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it also. So how great is the Supreme Personality of Godhead that such a personality as Lord Brahma must obey his instructions and follow his order. And not only one Lord Brahma, but unlimited Lord Brahmas. The story of Lord Brahma coming to Dwarka to meet Krishna, thinking he's a very important personality and he should be immediately ushered in. And the doorman comes, is Lord Brahma who has come to see you. Ask him which one. Which one? I mean, it's me, Lord Brahma. And then immediately Krishna summoned all the Lord Brahmas to come. And Lord Brahma in this universe, it's a small universe, only 4 heads, some with 8 heads, 16 heads, 32 heads, etc., etc., etc. And he can understand. Prabhupada describes his friendly German godbrother who made the decision that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in comparison to all the other demigods who are doing something, with weapons and warrior-like. But Krishna is simply in beautiful youthful posture, fresh youth, playing on the flute, engaged in amorous, loving pastimes with his dearmost devotees. He must be supreme. My dear Father, give up your demoniac mentality. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equiposed towards everyone. Except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then comes to the position of worshiping the Lord perfectly. Suniti is mentioning here. Even great yogis worship the Lord by controlling the mind and regulating the life air, prana. So that is so important. And Srila Prabhupada has made it very simple for us, especially in this age of Kali Yuga. No meeting fish or eggs, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, and chanting 16 rounds. Ravindra Svaruprabhu tells that they were asking Srila Prabhupada that it's predicted in the future that those being the leaders of countries in high political posts will be Vaishnavas and devotees. And the question was, what would be required to be able to become the president, the leader, and to take over the world? Prabhupada said in one place, if Krishna wanted, he could give you the whole world. Maybe, I think 18 days was the time. But the question is, what will you do with it? So Ravindra Svaruprabhu in this instance says that Prabhupada's answer was 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds. And Ravindra Svaruprabhu was, that's all? Said, yes, that is enough. In former times, there were many fools like you who did not conquer the 6 enemies that steal away the wealth of the body. Those fools were very proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all the 10 directions. But if a person is victorious over the 6 senses and equiposed towards all living entities, for him there are no enemies. Enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. You rascal, you are trying to minimize my value as if you were better than me in controlling the senses? This is overintelligent. I can therefore understand that you desire to die at my hands. For this kind of nonsensical talk is indulged in by those about to die. So we will leave the story there at a cliffhanger. I think everybody knows what happens next. Thank you very much. The verse today, once again, Suniti continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so great that simply by worshiping his lotus feet, your great-grandfather, Lord Rāma, acquired the necessary qualifications to create this universe. Although he is unborn and is the chief of all living creatures, he is situated in that exalted post because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom even great yogis worship by controlling the mind and regulating the life air prana. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any questions or comments? Janmashtami Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. You hear all right? You were reading from, I think, future verses or past verses?
I was reading future verses.
All right. Then one of the points that came out, is, if I recall correctly, is that, you know, if we're facing material problems, when we take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they'll be resolved. There's an interesting, the word dichotomy, you know, was when Prabhupada was still in Grahastha life, and then he came across 1088.
Right.
Yashaham anuganami harishay tadnam shanai pachodhanam pajantyasya swadhana dukkha dukhitam. When I feel especially mercifully disposed towards someone, I gradually take away his material opulence. Then his friends and relatives reject this most poverty-stricken and wretched fellow. And Prabhupada asked one of his godbrothers, is this what Krishna is doing to me? Because he had one business reversal after another. You know, Prabhupada, his godbrother, I think so, something like that. So, you know, this is sometimes a source of bewilderment for devotees, you know, when the reversals take place, and they're sincerely worshiping, and then sometimes, you know, there's one, I won't mention any names, but there was one very senior leader in the movement that had a major financial reversal, and he crashed shortly after that and left his position. Big responsibility. So it's something that, you know, that kind of vision of understanding action, Krishna's in control, and he's doing what's best for us. Just like, you know, Prabhupada once said to Giriraj Swami that Krishna takes charge of your sinful reactions and helps him to help you advance in Krishna consciousness. You know, so sometimes the difficulties are extremely beneficial for us. And Prabhupada had that vision, you know, and he, you know, just kind of locked in with that, and it eventually led to his renunciation of family life, you know, that whole thought process that he underwent. Anyway, just some thoughts.
Yeah. Actually, looking at Srila Prabhupada's, let's call it, key events in his life, Prabhupada revealed to devotees at one time that I'm in the spiritual world with Krishna, and Krishna asked me to come down to the material world, and you simply write your books, and I will do everything. He said, no, I don't want to go. It's a very dirty place. I don't want to go. And then again, he's encouraging Srila Prabhupada, you simply go and write your books, which is like, how important are Srila Prabhupada's books? You know, Krishna didn't tell him, I want you to go down there and start ISKCON. I want you to go down there and open many temples. I want you to go down there and initiate many disciples. I want you to go and write those books. Because I think it was a news reporter here in New York. It was like maybe a LaGuardia airport arrival during the Henry Street days. Swamiji, at what age did you fully realize yourself? When did you realize God fully? Well, for my whole life, I've been, you know, but what age? I understand. No, he was actually lecturing to he was actually instructing, well, you can become God conscious too. Yes, I understand, Swami. Thank you, very nice. But when did you? Actually, my entire life. And Prabhupada dedicated the Krishna book to my father, Gaur Mohan Dey, a pure devotee of Krishna, who raised me as a Krishna conscious child, who gave me Jagannath Rath as my childhood play. He was kind to me. And then, what does it say? And what I learned from him, what I imbibed from him was later solidified by my spiritual master, the Eternal Father. And in those days, marrying more than one wife was acceptable in the culture, Bengali Vaishnav culture back in the day. And his first wife, Prabhupada didn't like, and he wanted to get another one. And his father said, "My dear son, I advise you not to do this, because this will greatly help you in your future advancement of your spiritual life." And Prabhupada was like, because he loved his father. So you raise your children with love and affection, and then when they become of age, they will remember that for the rest of their life, and they'll always think very well of you. And arguably, Prabhupada's position in discipleship, to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he wasn't one of the first personalities to assist him to start the movement. He wasn't there when he took sannyas in 1918. He wasn't there when they established the Uttadangi Junction Temple. He's initiated in 1932. He was one of the junior disciples, and he wasn't a brahmachari or a sannyasi. Prabhupada even said they had a slang term, rotten grihasta, right? And I think he helped establish the Bombay Gaudiya Math. And then they were saying, why isn't Abhay Charan? He should be. And he said, it is better he remain outside your company. In due course of time, he will do everything himself. And it's described that after the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and the infighting and the God-brotherly fratricidal war broke out, suddenly it was to Srila Prabhupada's advantage because he had nothing to do with any of it. So more or less, he was free to concentrate on the personal instruction given to him. Turn yourself into a very good English preacher. You didn't have to deal with court cases and all of the intrigue and all of the the heartache that came from all of that. You just try to imagine for years and years what that must have been like. And in fact, some of the God brothers, they sought out our Srila Prabhupada's association because it was like a fresh, happy atmosphere. What is that, Sita Kanti Banerjee Lane in Calcutta? That they established, Prabhupada was living there, and he established a little Gaudiya Math there, and some of his God brothers who he maintained a dear relationship with from that, from the time of their spiritual master's presence all the way to the end of their lives, was there at that point. And indeed it was his father's prediction came true. Ultimately, you have to choose between tea and your husband. Well, I'll have to choose tea then, And she didn't understand that this was the last straw. And I believe that's when Prabhupada was noting that verse from the 88th chapter of the 10th canto. So all of these things are just very, very wonderful. So we should try as far as possible to see, the word used is reversals, as something helping us to ultimately advance and be in a position to please Krishna more and more. Yet at the same time, we should not abandon proper Vaishnava etiquette and culture and, what is it? At the end of the Madhya Leela, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, one should be careful to not get involved in the waves and whirlpools of unfortunate situations. If that one does so, one is finished. So we should always try our level best, as Prabhupada says, that your love for me will be shown, how well you cooperate together to keep this movement together after I am gone. So I think that is a very important premium that we should all keep in mind and try to practice that as sincerely and as fully as possible.
One comment on that, Prabhupada also, reading the last few months of Prabhupada's life and Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita recently, he repeatedly would say, my greatest fear is that there will be schism in our movement.
Right.
Because he saw it happen. And
Yeah.
that's a real strong motivation to understand Srila Prabhupada's role in the movement as our founder Acharya.
Absolutely.
That's what they didn't do in Gaudiya Math. They didn't understand Bhaktisiddhanta, accept his role in their lives and in the Gaudiya Math. And it fell apart.
And Srila Prabhupada was very careful as early as 1970s. Some of that, Prabhupada had some disciples left back or posted in India, and some of that opinionated, you can think of the fill in the blank word you want to choose, filtered back, and Prabhupada was just, at that point, he very, very strongly emphasized that on all letterheads, on all signboards, and all of my books should be Founder Acharya. They had published the book, ISKCON Press, A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Not Swami was there, not Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, that title was already 2 years in the current, since 1968. So, there will be many acharyas, but there will only be and never will be any more than one founder acharya. His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder acharya, Jagat Guru, Patita Pavana, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki, Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasinduvyeva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo